Hey everybody, the news is back, and so are we. I'm here with Josh and Dr. Mike this week.
Yes, I'm here.
Just quick word about sports this weekend. Big weekend headline-wise in Poland for a couple of reasons. Just yesterday, Iga Świątek won her third Grand Slam title at the U.S. Open. And tonight, as we record this will be old news by the time you hear this, Poland is going up against Italy for one of the 9 or 10 different world championships of volleyball. It's complicated, but Mike, are you a volleyball guy or not so much?
Not so much. It's one of those like sports that you imagine like when you're at a picnic or at the beach or something, somebody grabs a volleyball and starts playing. It doesn't seem like a true spectator competitive sport.
So you're really insulting the
I shouldn't be
Polish
insulting
team.
A bunch of athletic guys that are on average 2 meters tall. Yeah, it's probably not a good idea.
Yeah, just Josh, you get into volleyball at all?
I was in my school volleyball team, actually. And it caused me some kind of great amusement, like when I moved over here, when I remember people were going on about volleyball, and I was like, yeah, but that was kind of like weird minority sport, which I just like ended up in for whatever reason. And then I also remembered that the guy at my school who was the volleyball coach was Polish. So that may have been a big part of it.
It seems that maybe like cricket and rugby, volleyball is huge, insanely popular in 5 or 7 countries and just off the radar for everybody else. I think for volleyball, it's like Brazil is crazy about Russia, the ex-Yugoslav, the Serbians, Croatians, Poland, USA, kind of more or less, and that's it. I mean, I don't think Portugal or Norway or Thailand gets excited about volleyball, but
it's funny. I mean,
talking about the Scandinavians, I can imagine like beach, bikini volleyball or something like that.
And for Iga Świątek, well done to her. Congratulations. 2 French Opens and a U.S. Open now. The women's field, now that both Williams sisters are like really gone, the women's field is wide open. And I think I mentioned before that, she's got a chance to really stack up some impressive numbers.
She didn't do well at all at Wimbledon, but I mean, she's clearly like a top. I mean, I think she's reasonably justified in being the current world number 1 in women's tennis.
And comparing her with Radwanska, who was around forever, who only got to like I think 3rd or 2nd position on the list, and now you have Iga Świątek. She's won Grand Slams now. She's put herself in the history books now by winning multiple Grand Slams, because in women's tennis, how often is it they have one?
In women's, you win one. It sounds like an insult. Like you only have one, but you win one. It's impressive. Obviously, it's a Grand Slam, but the women's game is different than the men's game. But you can. What's the Brit girl who won?
Emma Raducanu.
Yeah, she seems like a flash in the pan the more time goes by.
Yeah.
So in the women's game, you can win 1, that's great, but you don't win 2 by accident, and you certainly don't win 3 by accident.
Right.
So
I mean, I think she is the real deal.
She's got something there, so well done to her. Congratulations. Let's move on. What else do we got here? We got a random list of things here to discuss. Let's start with some local news, Dr. Mike. A huge construction project that's been going on since, I think, 1867, which is the year on the bridge itself.
I think Maitrowski signed off on this right at the beginning.
The bridge that's the rail bridge that goes over Dietla at Hala Targowa, been under construction forever. Finally, slowly coming to some kind of end. And one stage in this ending is the opening of I guess you call it a remote neighborhood satellite train station, even though it's like 300 meters from the actual main train station. Anyway, slow opening this week, and going forward, it's meant to be, a big difference for local residents, but not everybody's happy with the station and the way it looks.
A lot of people are complaining about the actual design. I don't really see a bigger problem. One of the main complaints some people are saying is that if you go up to that station, you're in a position to see a wonderful view of Kazimierz.
Yeah, because you do go up. I think it's unique among all train stations here that it's 50 meters off the ground or whatever it is.
But the way the train station is constructed is that the covering that arches over you blocks the view of the city from you. There will be some windows and portals there that you can see it there. But a lot of people are saying like, this is a beautiful area. Why are they covering it up this way with this ugly metallic aluminium kind of wall or something like that? But there's see what the finished product is like, because it's still months away from completion. But the location is fantastic for a lot of people in the center of town. You want to get into Krakow, you have to go into the main station. Once you're at the main station, it's kind of far to get to anything, or at least walking distance. This will be a lot more convenient for a lot of locals, for residents, or just to get on bus lines to go somewhere else, tram lines as well. Dave lives right around the corner from there. He is a different person for me, by the way, because a lot of people might be saying, like, Dave was here last week, I'm here this week.
You sound a little different this week, Dave.
Yeah, it's kind of like Clark Kent, Superman, Batman, kind of Bruce Wayne.
All right, let's not get too carried away there.
Okay. I was a little surprised when you guys were comparing him to like being best coming back to the Beatles or something like that.
Well, I think he did that.
No, I did that.
Oh, Josh did that.
Say like what? So that means I'm Ringo Starr now or something?
Well, it was designed to be kind of insulting in a very good-humoured way. Obviously, we love you, Dave.
Yeah. Even though you sound different this week. Well, actually, it's funny, Mike, because as you say, ironically, despite being in the very center of town, the main train station in Krakow is kind of inconvenient. It's like you have to backtrack depending on where you're coming from. Getting off the train just 250, 300 meters earlier at Hala Targowa will be much easier, much more convenient because of the tram connections there than going all the way to the main train station.
Also, there's a multitude of directions you can go in. I mean, if you get off at the main station, unless you're a student at the Polytechnic or whatever, I mean, there's really nowhere to go north. I mean, everything lies to the south.
You have to walk to the train station, you have to walk to the mall, get to a major road that you have to cross to before you can get to something to go somewhere else. Here at Grzegórski, that's what it's going to be called. You get off the train and literally you're within walking distance of your destination or a bus or a train line.
Well, to be fair, I mean, there's been, the underpass or subway connecting the main station to like the Planty that's been in place for at least 20 years.
And going back to what you mentioned about people not being happy with the way it looks, I have to say, I'm sympathetic to the designers here in this situation because in a city like Krakow, no matter what you do, somebody's going to say, "Oh, how could you put something like that in this city? It doesn't match the aesthetic. It doesn't look." There's no way you can win as a designer, as an artist, as a planner. There's no way you're going to make everybody happy. So just do whatever and just let the chips fall where they may.
Tear down that building on the main square, which has got Phoenix on the first floor, which is the conspicuously modern building.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to remember that one of the main reasons that this train station still isn't operational is because of the fact that Konservator said that the overpass, the bridge, had to be kept up to a certain standard, and the engineers tried to keep the original foundations, but after a year and a half, they said, like, no, we can't do this. We have to tear down and put up some new construction work if we want modern trains.
Yeah, you want 21st century, rail traffic, but 19th century engineering support. No can do.
And that basically took a year, and
how long has this been going on? By the whole project, I mean,
it's been about better part of 4 years.
It seems like it's been closed forever.
I believe last year.
Whatever.
But first of all, the Conservator slowed everything down, and then COVID hit, which didn't help.
The bridge got COVID, so here we are. All right, let's move on to something else here. Speaking of transport, this is something that will not go away. We haven't talked about it in a while, Dr. Mike, but it's like a zombie. You think it's dead, and it comes back. The issue of a subway, metro, underground, whatever you want to call it.
Oh, really?
It's back in the news. I thought it had been stabbed through the heart with like a silver bullet or whatever.
Clove of garlic.
Yeah, exactly. All that stuff dumped, to the bottom of this ocean, but it's back. So what's the latest on this?
The latest is that it's going to happen, but it's not going to be a metro or anything like that.
What the hell is it?
It's going to be technically a tram line, which is going to work as a quasi-metro, so like regional rail.
What the hell does that mean?
And it's going to be from Bronovice to Nowa Huta. The first line they want to construct is going to be from, I don't know exactly what this is. It's Hala Targowa Wanda, somewhere in Nowa Huta, and it's going to go all the way down to the Wisła Stadium.
Don't we already have a connection between Bronovice and Nowa Huta? It's called Tram number 4.
This is going to be a more direct line that goes through the center of town, and it's about 10 kilometers.
Tram number 4 goes through Bagatella. How much more central can it get than that?
This is supposed to not go over the streets. It's going to be only about a third of it is going to be on the streets. Then part will be elevated, and about a half of it will be underground in the same way that the tram that goes by Polytechnica and the train station is underground. So it's not going to be a true metro subway in that sense, but about half the stops that go through the center of town will look like that.
So it's not high speed, but it's meant to be like an express in the sense that it has fewer stops?
It's basically, It's the idea is that, it's not going to be fewer stops. It's going to be 14 stops on this first 10-kilometer section. and then there'll be the second section that goes to Brnovice. But the idea is from Nova Huta to Brnovice will take you about just a little over 40 minutes.
So what did you say, 14 stops over 10 kilometers?
Yes.
So let's call that, what is that, 750 kilometers between stops, roughly?
It's about a half a mile between each stop, yeah.
Isn't the whole point to cover a lot of ground? I mean, what I said before, when you're stopping constantly, it defeats the whole purpose of.
Well, there's the thing that
express.
Electric trams are capable of accelerating very rapidly, but the problem, of course, with the tram rail infrastructure, especially close to the city centre, is that there are these tight radius curves which you just cannot go quickly around, so that you can't accelerate quickly away from stops. You can't actually move that quickly. But when it's a straight line, I mean, I've seen this, like getting a tram from, I don't know, Podgórze up to Stradom or whatever, and then once it hits the beautifully remodeled Krakowska, it absolutely whizzes along between the stops. I mean, it really. I mean, the time at Corona or whatever, and the time at Stradom on the timetable is like 3 minutes difference, and like all of that time is really, the couple of stops in between, well, the one stop in between where it's stationary with the doors open. I
mean, the idea of transit in the city is something that is dependable and quick. And actually, you want there to be many stops so people have the option to go from destination to destination by using this transit system without having to either walk or drive. So, it can't just be long distances with nothing in between. But the problem is that when you have that kind of transit system in a city, especially streetcars, trams, well, yes, they're tight radius turns, weather, traffic. It stops being fit for purpose of that situation. So you need to be either elevated or underground so it can be consistent and dependable. And this is what they're probably.
We haven't even included the topic of the eye-watering costs involved. Especially digging underground.
This section is supposed to cost about 2.5 billion zlotys.
And this comes from where exactly?
The reparations Germany will be paying.
Oh, yeah.
That's a drop of the bucket. We're going to get like $1 trillion, more than $1 trillion. We can do lots of metro systems here.
From Brnovice all the way up to Gdańsk.
I just think, just like green energy issues and high-speed rail, and this is one of those things that simply will not go away. There's always going to be a vocal minority, I think it's a minority, but that pushes the idea.
Sorry, Johnny, are you saying that unicorns do not exist?
And they don't fart Skittles?
If Krakow was 3 times bigger than it is, and maybe, but I think Krakow's too small for this. Maybe they're waiting for the Brussels to rain cash down on this. Who knows?
Well, I think there's a lot of arguments going backwards and forwards about various types of urban transportation, and certainly in the UK, there's been in certain quarters a lot of mirth about brand new tram projects in like Manchester or specifically Edinburgh, which have cost like 4 or 5 times what it was originally intended, and really don't serve any useful purposes. But on the other hand, you do have like a lot of European cities, particularly Central European cities, that have had tram networks for 120, 130 years plus, and they're kind of integrated into the fabric of the city. And they work very, very well, and people are used to them, and it's effective. But once you start talking about tunnels and bridges are very expensive. Tunnels are eye-wateringly expensive. I mean, it's very hard, I think, for the average man in the street or woman, or anything else, to wrap their heads around the complexity of what's involved with tunneling. You either like excavate an enormous trench, put the stuff in, and then fill over the top again, which is what they did in New York.
No one's debating or doubting the utility of a metro system. It'd be wonderful, but it comes at a cost. And I've always made the case, and I've said this many times here on our show, that I think we're better off taking that money and drastically expanding the existing network, especially trams, buses too. But I think there are areas of the city that we could, send a tram track or 2 or 3 into, and everybody would be much better off, and everybody would benefit, not just the people who live within a walking distance of one of those 14 stops.
Well, I think what
on
would
this
be more useful
metro line
would be kind of like radial tram lines, because the thing that really limits the overall capacity of the tram network in Krakow is that more or less all trams hit the city centre.
Right.
And that means that however they're timetabled, you've got to be able to fit all of those trams coming from all the 7 or 8 corners of the city where there are tram lines. They've all got to be able to slot in with all the other trams when they reach, whether it's Bagatella or Stradom or Rondo Mogilskie or wherever. And this is the limiting factor. I mean, if you have trams that go around the city centre, avoid the city centre.
Agree, 1,000%.
Like Bronovice to Nova Huta. Don't put it through the city centre.
Yeah.
Go along
up and around and over and under and all the rest of it. But exactly.
City, listen to us. We are.
Oh, by the way, I mean,
engineers and urban planners,
and we have all the answers to everything.
I mean, you may not have been aware of this, and this isn't on the schedule for today's show. But did you know that the massive roadworks that have been taking place around Borok-Fawensky and Łagiewnicki are complete?
Yes, I was there recently, and on opening day, I think they had a catastrophe with the tram. Some other technical reasons shut it down.
Derailed.
Okay, impressive. But yeah, I mean, it looks great.
Yeah,
I haven't.
There's a football pitch on top of the road, isn't there?
I don't know. I haven't had a chance to look into every bit of it. It's a very impressive project. A lot of it underground, integrated, trams and kind of a highway, I guess you might say, through the center of town underground. I'm curious about why that we associate it with Łagiewnicki, the shrine.
Yeah,
I hope that's coincidental. I hope it's not a way to get people to the shrine.
It's absolutely about making it much easier for Catholic visitors to be able to access.
I hope it's about that part of town generally. The south side of town gets a little bit ignored when it comes to these big infrastructure projects. But it is very well done and very nice. Well, let's hope the metro thing gets another
tell us what you really think.
Silver bullet through its skull. Totally against it. What else we got here, Dr. Mike? You say this place was iconic. I'm gonna question that. A vegetarian restaurant called Podnoronami. Okay, you say it was iconic. I'll defer to you. I don't know
what
much.
What does that translate as?
I don't even know. Actually.
Under the noodle or under the tofu?
A handful of friends of mine. There always seem to be that vegan bastard around. They would talk.
Vegan bastard.
I don't know. I don't like him.
I thought you said vegan bastard. Okay, anyway.
They would always.
How do you know they're vegan? I remember.
Let me finish setting this up, though. So, according to Dr. Mike, if you believe him, this is an iconic veggie place. Let's have a quick sidebar here. You think Krakow, in terms of restaurant number and variety, you think it's a vegetarian-friendly place or not so much?
Way too many. There's a few that have been around here for those Glonojad.
Yeah.
Then also not on Krupnika, not too far from this place, up the street, there was another place. I don't remember their names. I just know I know there were those places because you always knew that girl that always wanted to go there, and like, for Christ's sakes, I just like
let's go get a steak. Let's go get a burger.
Yeah, and
there's one on Dietler, isn't there, a little way up that's been there forever?
A couple, yeah.
There's that Vega kebab places as well. That I remember being stopped at the street and somebody asking me where that place is, and like, I have no idea, and I gave him the wrong direction just because. Eat some meat, bitch.
All right, wait. So, let me finish this. So the place closes down. Now, I'm not convinced that it's because it was a vegetarian place. I just think there's the difficult climate generally for restaurants over the last couple of years. They were a victim of that. And, unless you have...
I guess salty tears are vegan, aren't they?
Deep pockets to kind of,
are vegan.
Wait it out.
Vegetarian, maybe.
A lot of places are closing. What's my point here? So is this, are you saying that this is the thing about... This is about vegetarian restaurants, or this is about restaurants?
I think this is a mix of them both. Because first of all, you can be a vegetarian because it's generally trendy, not necessarily economical. As soon as you realize that you don't have enough money for food, you start eating more meat because it makes more sense in a lot of scenarios.
Saying being a vegetarian is expensive?
Usually more expensive, actually. A lot of people don't realize it's because you need to subsidize. It's usually those restaurants are more specialized. Like walking to somebody getting a cutlets hub over or something like that.
Let me ask you, because you're a doctor, allegedly, like an actual, medical doctor.
Got the certificate on the wall and everything.
God, I thought it was hard to get into med school, but what is being? So many people are vegetarians and they lead, healthy lives. I guess the health effects are negligible, or there are no negative health effects. But let's say you're a normal person your whole life, and one day you decide to go vegetarian. Does your body go into shock or something? Like, where's my meat? Or what happens when you go from, normal to vegetarian?
Not really shocked, but the whole idea is a lot of people that when they go to vegetarian, they don't realize that you need to make up for the loss in certain types of proteins and substances and nutrients. It's not that just like, I'll have an extra serving of spinach or something like that. No, we are designed to be omnivorous creatures. I'll admit that, especially in Western, more affluent cultures, we eat too much meat. We don't need that much meat. It's 2 or 3 pieces of meat a week or something like that. I mean, I could eat 2 or 3 pieces of meat a day and I'll be happy. But from a nutritional standpoint, you don't need as much as we're now have access to. But a lot of people that go vegetarian, they just don't realize that it's not just eating beans or anything like that. It becomes a lot more complicated because our body is designed to process meat, to get a lot of the nutrients, a lot of the vitamins from meat that we actually need to survive. And vegetables don't necessarily give that to us in the quantities that we need. Vegan, it makes it even more difficult. So getting a proper vegan diet means you need to specialize. You need to actually monitor what you're eating. And a lot of the reason that people that are vegan or vegetarian are healthier is not because they're not eating meat. It's because usually people are also the kinds that exercise regularly, don't smoke, don't drink, and have
part of a larger lifestyle.
Exactly. And the fact that they're vegetarian or not is a small part of their being healthier or not.
I'm reminded of where I used to live in London. Just a couple of blocks away from me was not just one, but like 3 or 4 shops that specialised in like organic food, health food products, and blah blah blah. All this, kind of like definitely no animal flesh would be found on those premises. And they were very good shops if you wanted to buy certain types of more obscure foodstuffs, like, I don't know, miso sauce, like soup and Japanese things or whatever. But the thing that always used to crack me up, and I did make the mistake of walking in there once wearing a leather jacket, which kind of got a lot of filthy looks, is that without exception, in my experience over many, many, many years, was that not only the entirety of the staff, but the entirety of the clientele looked unhappy and unhealthy.
And I agree with you, because when you walk into the kind of place, that's generally the vibe. Speaking of this restaurant, they're saying that they went under because of inflation and the fact that Krupnica Street is constantly under renovation.
Which is true.
There are other restaurants and things in that area that are doing fine.
Oh, which is also true.
And in Krakow, you don't need to drive up to the restaurant, so you could walk up to it. That wouldn't make a difference. I did go in there once, like 2 years ago, with a group of friends. One girl in that group of friends was a vegetarian, so we had to go to a vegetarian place. She told me, like, no, Mike, it's fine, because in this restaurant, everything on the menu has like protein in it, and it's named as if it has chicken or beef in it. So it'll be like beef with vegetables or chicken with noodles.
Beef with no beef.
Exactly. Which I always thought it was funny. The vegetarians say they don't want to eat meat, but half their products are called meat something. So I ordered some chicken with vegetables, and I tried it, and she's like, Mike, you eat this and you won't even realize it's not chicken because it's just like chicken. I'm like, do you eat meats? What the hell are you talking about? And I remember eating it, and I asked her, so which part of this was supposed to be meat? And she seemed offended by the fact that I didn't notice that this weird squishy thing that tasted kind of like potato omelet in saliva was supposed to be the meat substitute in this. For me, it's it was fine, spice wise and everything like that was flavorful, but it would have been great if they threw some chicken bacon in it.
One of my sisters was a vegetarian, not a vegan, but a vegetarian for a good decade. And when asked, what's the hardest thing about being vegetarian, her one-word answer was bacon.
Hey, that's why I can never last.
Yeah.
I want to go back to Dr. Mike. You said that being a vegetarian was, almost part of a larger lifestyle series of habits, preferences, including, exercising and other health conscious things. And being a vegetarian was part of that. And so being a vegetarian gets all the credit, but in fact, it's part of a longer list of habits. Mm-hmm. I just have to share this real quickly. This reminded me instantly of the commercials. Maybe you'll recall some of them as well on American TV for these American super sugary cereals, morning, breakfast cereals. And the line they always use is part of this complete breakfast. And they put a bowl of it down next to, strawberries and a banana and some yogurt and all the good stuff. Yeah. And the grapefruit, exactly. And that's the role vegetarian play. It's probably not the same at all. But anyway, let's move on.
Yeah.
I hope they open up a steakhouse.
Yeah, we're going to get a lot of hate mail over this from all the angry non-meat eaters.
So a couple of weeks ago, what was it, effective, more than a couple of weeks ago, effective, I think it was July 1st, a new law went into effect that severely limited the places and context where you could put up large advertisements, especially like billboard-sized advertisements on the side of buildings and things like that. And since then, lots of areas of the city have been made to be much more attractive and kind of restored to their pre-billboard state. But weirdly, this week, Dr. Mike, on Mogilska, Rondo Mogilska, right in the center of town, and this is a building that I know very well, having passed it a million times, somebody had a different idea about, complying with those new rules.
Yes, they did. And this sign actually, because they had advertising in this building plus another building on the other side of it on the Mogilska, they took them down when the laws changed. But then new advertisement went back up. And it actually says on the advertising that it's in accordance with the law, because the law allows buildings that are being renovated to put advertising over the scaffolding up to a maximum of 50% of the outside area that's visible.
Now, the renovation is an exterior renovation, like the facade of the building.
And it says that on the advertising here. And a lot of people are saying, like, wait, they're allowed to do that? But now apparently the city has looked into this, and it's not in line in the regulations because, first of all, they're not doing any renovation. So that's part of it.
Just put scaffolding up to support the advert.
They didn't put up scaffolding. They put up a mesh over the outside of the building. Well, the law basically says, like, you can have advertising if you have scaffolding and it's covering the scaffolding. But here they just put up a mesh, and the other building actually says the mesh is covering up renovations they're doing to what used to be part of the infrastructure of the building that held up the previous advertisement.
If you don't know what the Polish word kombinować means, this is the ultimate example of exactly what it is.
They're claiming they found loopholes. The city is saying, no, these are not loopholes. You're not even, the mesh thing doesn't even gel.
So they decided to fine them at 30,000 zlotys, right? That's a lot of money. And I'm curious about this because, it shows... Well, it shows one of two things. It shows either that the city is serious about enforcing this thing about, the signs and billboards, or it shows they're serious about enforcing the cases where they can levy 30,000 zloty fines for these big ones. I think if you're some neighborhood business and you put a sign up, I don't know if they're going to come down on you that hard. Or if they're going to care.
It's the same. Yeah, in this scenario, it's the same amount of effort to go to either you go for the big guy or the little guy. The big guy, though, the same amount of effort, you get 30,000 zlotys instead of 300.
I wonder, just staying with the kombinować, załatwić kind of mentality. I'm curious. Let's say you have a neighborhood business and you put up some kind of billboard or sign. Let's say not huge. Just saying that, your business, this is the address, but with an arrow maybe. And they walk into your store and they say, look, you can't do that. And you say, what sign? Did somebody put a sign there? So, steering people to my business? I had no idea. I mean, how do they, just because it's for your business, how do they prove that you put it there?
Well, I don't think that's necessary. I think if you were a mischievous scamp who decided to put up signs advertising other people's business in a way that like people would object to, then the owner of that business would still nevertheless have a responsibility to deal with it because it is the named business on the sign.
The presumption as well is that it is you. So.
Also, I don't know. Legally, I don't know if they can punish you for something that they cannot prove that you put up.
Well, this is kind of moving slightly into that area of, like the whole free speech and Twitter and Facebook and like kind of, no, like everyone's free to say, but no, we don't. You're not free to say that. And I mean, no, we're not. We're not a publisher. We are just a notice board and
we're a platform. Yeah.
By the way, and this is, you may not be aware of this. This isn't on the script either, so this is pulling it out
bonus
of
coverage.
My nether quarters. But did you know that as of the week just past, Kazimierz is now a special cultural zone, which means that all cafes, bars, restaurants, etc., that have outside seating, or what is quaintly termed a garden, will have to close those and take the chairs inside at 10 o'clock from Monday to Thursday.
They have been looking for ways to combat noise issues late night, especially for the residents, for ages. And it has finally come to pass. I think existing businesses have got up to a year to sort of come around to complying with this. But any new business that hasn't previously had what they call like a garden license, if they wish to have a garden license, then they have to comply with these new regulations. The idea
in fact, I've noticed as of this week,
if your customers are sitting outside after 10 p.m., you are liable for you can be ticketed or fined or whatever.
Yeah.
And this is just Platz Nova, or is this all over?
No, it's the whole of Kazimierz. In fact, I mean, in a sense, it's absurd in Platz Nova, because I mean, anyone who's dumb enough to live on Platz Nova, it's been noisy there for 2 decades now. But I suspect, I mean, the location that definitely springs to mind where I can see that it would be reasonably applicable is Mostova Street, which leads down to the, Kwatka Bernatka, the footbridge that was put up in 2010, because that street was previously a completely moribund cul-de-sac and has now become a very, very busy thoroughfare with lots of cafes, bars, restaurants, etc. And there are people living there who've lived there for a long time who have suddenly got a great deal more noise going on outside their bedroom window. I've got a lot more sympathy for them than I have for the people who have gone like, I'd love to buy a flat in Krakow because it's such a cool place. And like Kazimierz is a really, happening, buzzy district. And this street has got lots of, stuff happening on it. So they sink lots of money into a beautifully refurbished flat in an old kamienica. And then after, a few months of living there, they decide that, it's very nice and I love the buzz and everything, but there's too much noise late at night. And so they start lobbying, the local business.
I like being able to go outside and party, but then when I want to go to sleep, I want it to be quiet.
And these are people with like air conditioning and triple glazing. So, no, you don't need to have a window open.
Yeah, it's like the people who complain that they live close to the airport and they should shut it down. And yeah, like you said, if you like living close to the buzz of the nightlife scene and whatnot, then
I speak as someone who likes to have a drink and likes to go to bars which have live music and don't stop doing either at 10 p.m.
Oh well, we'll see if it works. I doubt it. One more thing, this somehow escaped our notice. Normally, we are really good at finding stories about naked people.
Half the time it's usually about us.
I think we have a 100% track record when it comes to reporting those stories, but somehow this escaped us.
This is levels of winner. This is right up there with a chicken dinner, isn't it?
This is from 2 weeks ago. Dr. Mike, not surprisingly, found this one. Apparently, not apparently. I've seen it with my own eyes, so it happened. There's like video included. This woman in that. It used to be the place where the bus is parked by Vavel, like in front of the Sheraton. Is it still a parking, by the way, today? I haven't been there in so long.
Yeah.
There for hanging out, but there's also actual parking lots specifically for buses.
That's right. Anyway, on a nice enough day, this woman comes by riding her bike, and she's wearing a shirt that's kind of a button-up shirt that's unbuttoned. And nothing else.
Footwear, yeah.
Well, shoes. Okay, if you want to count that.
It was a nice day, but it was a little nippy, if you know what I mean. So
it was. It was just a matter of time before that started. But I don't know what our point here is. But anytime somebody
naked chick.
Well, if it was a naked guy,
we're gonna have to post a video link for all of our unreconstructed sad sexist male pigs.
Maybe we'll go full clickbait and use a still from the video for the Facebook post.
Nobody knows why she did it, and apparently it must have been planned because somebody was there ready to film it as she went by.
I'm sure there was no shortage of filmers.
Did she lose a bet? If she was protesting something, nobody knows because there was no announcement. It's a center of town, a busy day. Decided to just ride by.
You mentioned protest. Isn't it funny how, just especially for women standing there topless, isn't it funny how we're supposed to take them seriously when if there's some political context to what they're doing? I'm protesting Vladimir Putin by taking my shirt off.
Was she going towards the castle?
Going away from it.
Oh, right. Because that if you continue on that road past the Sheraton and then go directly across Zvezhinetska, you end up in the recently renamed Square Prav Kobiet.
Right.
Which is the...
Maybe she was coming from there.
Well, that's why I asked.
She was on her way. Well, who knows where she was going. But
so maybe it was like a naked protest. And also, and I'm sure this is not a coincidence, that the Krakow headquarters of the Law and Justice Party, PiS, is on... I mean, the street is called Rhetorichna, but that section of the street is been renamed Square Prav Kobiet. And I can't help thinking rather like the little square where the Russian consulate is located, which we mentioned on the news several months ago, has been renamed, from Platz Biskupia or Square to Platz Volnost Ukraine or whatever.
Where were you going with this?
Well, it's like kind of the Rights for Women Square is directly where PiS have their Krakow headquarters, and it's like because PiS have no respect for women's rights, as you very well know.
And women's there's no more fundamental right than to ride topless on a bicycle.
I absolutely agree.
Topless, pantsless, everything. Yeah.
Okay, no idea why we mentioned this, but just to talk about a naked woman on a bike.
Gives me an excuse to look at those kind of pictures on my computer. My wife can't say anything. Oh no, this is research for the podcast.
Yeah.
All right. On that note, we will bring this one to an end. Thanks for listening, everybody. Check out an episode later this week. We have a language lesson coming up with a very interesting guest that you're definitely going to want to check out. So keep an eye open for that. KrakCast.pl is our website, of course. All of our back episodes are there, so have a look. And so on behalf of Dr. Mike and Josh, I say thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time on the KrakCast.
Mahalo.